Let's talk about 10 ways to increase your happiness. If you're somebody who feels bogged down by sadness, by feeling discouraged, not feeling like you can get a grip on being positive and not just being positive, but feeling better, feeling positive, feeling optimistic, then I want to talk about these 10 ways and these 10 tips that you can use to empower yourself. And that's what I love about these 10 tips. It's about you having some ways that you on your own can use and implement into your life if you're not already, to be able to incorporate better feelings, better emotional state. So let's talk about it. We're going to start with understanding your source of unhappiness. So with everything, this is not about you focusing in on why you're sad, but it is understanding where it's coming from. The reason that this is important is because when we have awareness and we have understanding, then it helps us to be able to then have a pinpoint of a problem. And when we can pinpoint a problem, it better helps us be able to come up with a solution. If we, have no idea what a cause is, and, there could be so many reasons for a cause, it's hard to then narrow down where to start. So the first thing that I would want to encourage is to think about and understand where your unhappiness is coming from, because everything has a cause, everything has a source. Number two is going to be changing your connections. And when I say connections, I mean the people that you're connected with, the things that you're connected with, primarily the people. Connections are so important in how we get encouraged or discouraged, where we get inspired or we get triggered. So we could have connections that are healthy, that are, people that we trust. We know they love us. We know their intentions are good at the very least. We know their intentions are good. And we know that this is a place that we can seek support. Community is important. Connection is important. But then there are some of us who, and many of us, I'm sure all of us at some point, have had people who are toxic in our connections. And when we're dealing with toxic people, this means that they end up, projecting onto us more fear, a lower sense of self, some type of hate, if you call it, or if you will. And a lot of times you walk away from those connections feeling lower in your vibration, feeling lower in, your outlook, or feeling heavy. You might not have really connected why you feel so heavy, but pay attention to your connections and the patterns that come along with how you feel after you connect with those people, those connections. So if you're, dealing with this particular person and you notice every time you leave this connection, you feel less than, or you feel discouraged, or you feel uncertain, to really start thinking about what happens in the midst of those connections. And if you're with people where you leave those connections feeling inspired and happy, I don't think it's difficult to really, recognize in those, like, these are my people, or these are the people who really, really speak life into me. Like, this is my tribe of people. It's important to know that too, because, you want to know what's helpful for you. So the people who you see in that way, who support you, you want to be able to identify them and acknowledge that. And the same way when it comes to the people who are not so much. Number three is going to be consider what brings you joy. And that's something to really think about. I talked at first about what brings you unhappiness, but I really want you to think about what brings you joy. When I say I really want you to think about it, I want you to really zone in on this and just think about, even if you don't have anything bringing you joy right now in this moment, what has been your sources of joy throughout the course of your life? What tends to make you happy? In the past, what have been those things that have tend to make you more happy? Because when you know this and you can identify this, then you can start to bring that back into your life more. You may not bring it back into your life the way you did once upon a time. Maybe you had more time then. Maybe there were certain people who were around then. But some element of understanding what makes you happy and what brings you joy would be something to connect with more. So I would want you to ask yourself, the thing that you recognize that has brought you joy, How often are you doing that today? How often do you bring that into your experience today? And even if the experience right now is, reflecting back on the feelings that you had enjoyed when you did those things, if it's hard to bring it back physically right now, we can always bring things back in our imagination. And then knowing your stress levels will be number 4. When we know our stress, what's bringing us stress, then we can try to have less of that in our life. How can you have a boundary around these stressors that are coming up? Your stressors might be that, you are working too much. Your stressors might be that you don't have time for yourself. Your stressors might be taking on a lot of other people's issues, always having people call you, telling you their problems. These could be your stressors. Your stressors could be being so busy, So being able to recognize what are your stressors, what makes you stressed. And I think what makes you stressed when you think about it. You feel stressed just thinking about it. And recognizing what that is, so that when you create this plan for yourself, it is created with less of that thing. How are you going to bring boundaries around getting so much of that stress? How are you going to push that stress away and bring more of the thing we talked about before, joy, into its place? And then number 5 is going to be the connection with something bigger than you. Do you have connection with something bigger than you? And I'm not meaning religiously, even though for some people it may be religion, but I mean from a spiritual space, understanding, a larger purpose than what you're experiencing in your personal life. There's something bigger than you. There's something bigger than us as everyday people. Because when we recognize that, studies show there's so much benefit to that also being a source of support, a source of faith, or a source of optimism, when we can really recognize that there is something controlling this larger thing called life than just what we're doing physically in our day-to-day, because often we may feel helpless in our day-to-day. So knowing that something's bigger than you also brings up the idea of purpose, that there's something behind all that you experience, or that there is a larger purpose to everything that's happening. And to seek understanding in that could be a focal point or a place to focus, to take you out of the rut sometimes, and to be in awe of something that's larger. For some people, it's something that's magical. It's something that's, awe-inspiring, so really understanding that there's support when we think about a larger presence, a larger purpose, something bigger than who we are as individual people. And then number 6 is going to be, I want to encourage you to hug someone. I want to encourage you to hug someone that you truly love. Research shows so much benefit to connection in this way, and hugging. When you hug someone and embrace them from a place of love, you are literally releasing hormones in your body that are happy hormones, that are hormones that support connection, that support joy, And so hugging someone that you truly love and meaning it, and then looking them in their eyes and telling them something inspiring, something encouraging, or why you love them. Like really taking that moment to be present with someone that you truly love, that you appreciate. Being present always takes us away from what's happening in the future, possibly, what happened in the past, possibly. And in this day and age, though we know that technology has its place, it is more important than ever for us, especially after a pandemic that has also created patterns of separation, to be intentional about connection. So many people's feelings of sadness, and depression, come from this disconnect. And so many people who I've seen and treated in private practice and in clinic spaces that I work in, During the pandemic, the increase in depression is skyrocketed. The increase in anxiety is skyrocketed. And I was able to not just see this on paper, but I was able to see this with the people that I serve in community. And so it's important for us to get that back, to start recreating these connections through love. So hugging someone, looking them in their eyes and really being in a space of truth in why you love them, is something that it gives a gift to them. But what's so beautiful with life is it gives a gift back to you too. So I would really encourage you to try that, to really try that. I'm a mushy person, so it's one of those things that I love. All right, and so now number 7 is going to be achieve more rest. Achieving more rest. A lot of people have issues with sleep, so I could just say, let's talk about sleep. But oftentimes, we also are wound up in not being able to sleep because we have no rest during the day. So being intentional during the day, even if you have a busy day, to say, I'm going to take 15 minutes to just sit, close everything, breathe. Meditation can be just breathing, just disconnecting from the busyness and giving yourself 15 minutes periodically throughout your day to just be in a state of rest. Maybe in that rest, you lay on the floor and, just put your arms out and close your eyes and just breathe. Maybe rest for you is listening to something very calming for you or something encouraging to you. But the point is you're stopping the busyness for a moment to give yourself a check-in of rest. There are some studies that show that the more that we give ourselves periods of rest during the day, it can also help with sleep at night. So sleep is an important part of rest, but I'm also talking about resting in the course of your day, giving yourself those moments of rest, because when we're overworked, that brings on a lot of shifts in mood, to our disadvantage for most of us. And then we are going to talk about setting a picture in your mind of what happiness looks like for you, or your idea of happiness. What is your idea of happiness? This is something we have to start picturing for ourselves. And it's something that I've started asking patients, not quite in this way, but when I have a patient who normally first thing I'll ask them is, what are your symptoms? What are your problems? And though we're going to talk about those, something I've started to ask them to help expand what they want is, when was the last time you recall feeling well? To have a connection back to wellness. So when we talk about getting more happiness in our life, then I want you to think about what is your idea of happiness, because putting that picture in your mind is a way of starting to create it. Our imagination is a place that we can play. Our imagination does not have to just be a place to think of the worst things that could happen in our future and the most destructive things that have happened in our past. It can be a place where we play with what we desire. So what is your idea of happiness? And to create that picture in your mind so that when you've created that, you revisit that periodically and allow yourself to feel it. Even if you're not experiencing it today, allow yourself to feel what your idea of happiness is. I think I got off on my numbers, but number 9 is to get up, get out, and to move. Exercise is a loaded word for many of us. I want to start with just saying, let's move more. Moving could be taking a walk outside. You might not be taking a walk where you are, really doing a power walk necessarily, but you're getting outside, you're seeing brightness in some form, or you might take an evening walk, but you're getting fresh air. You're seeing scenery beyond the 4 walls of our homes. You're able to be out in nature, connect with some beauty out and about. And then even moving where we are getting more active in a way where we're getting our heart rate up and we're sweating some, allowing ourselves to do that as well. So movement helps to get all of our circulation going, gets the blood pumping, helps to get more circulation to our brain so we have more clarity in our mind. It helps us to release chemicals that are helpful. And I know many people hear this and they're like, I always hear about getting more exercise, but the reason you may hear that a lot is because there's so much truth behind the benefits of exercise and movement. And then last but not least is going to be connecting with inspiration. And that inspiration could be things that you've never heard of. Learning can be inspiration. When it comes to our healing, learning beyond what we know, learning beyond what a society may tell you solely is good for communication, good for healing, or good to be in a better state. Sure, you may learn things in that society, but there's a vastness in the world that we can learn from other people. One of the benefits of not being a know-it-all and thinking we know it all is that we can grow when we are curious to know more of what is out there in the world that can be beneficial. How do other people do things? How are other people finding joy? How are other cultures finding joy? Learning this and understanding this can really be something that broadens your possibilities. And you may find ways that resonate with you that you would want to try. When we know it all, we can't learn and we can't grow. And this life isn't about arriving or knowing it all. It is about being taught by life, learning, and to learn, we learn more when we expand ourselves to know what else is out there that we don't know. When we commit to realizing that we don't know everything and there are things that we don't know that we don't know. So there's so much to know. And in that knowing, you can find a lot of inspiration. You can be in awe of things that you've never considered before, which can be, something to feel curious about learning and living for. So I really encourage to get connected with inspiration. What inspires you now, but also what might inspire you that you don't even know yet. And so with that, the point is being open to being inspired so that you can know what you don't know. And, that is what I'm leaving with you today. I would want you to put in the comment section if any of these really speak to you more. Let me know in the comment section. And also, if you want to do a 1-hour wellness session with me, where we talk about what your struggles are and come up with some ways that you can apply some approaches to your life, then book a session with me. I'll have that link in the comment section. All right, I will see you all in my next video. Have a beautiful day or evening, depending on when you're watching this. And just keep in mind that my name is Crystal Turner. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner who is going holistic because I know to be whole is to be healed. Hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel to get more inspiration like this. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.